You are listening to the REI Mastermind Podcast. Join JD as he chats with industry-leading real estate experts and professionals. We learn from their experience and uncover the strategies to their success that we can implement into our own businesses, and we can drive immediate results today. They share their experience and wisdom as we build a foundation to our own success. This is the REI Mastermind Network.
Well, we have Jennifer Murtland, and we're going to have kind of a treat here tonight. We're going to keep this really conversational because you're a realtor. And you have your own podcast.
Oh, no, you sounded like that was like a bad word there.
Well, I told you, it's sometimes a four-letter word. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But,
yeah,
you know, this is going to be a great conversation because I always like talking to realtors because, you know, as an investor, we're always looking to build our team, and realtors are a big part of that. But before we start, I want to make sure that everybody has your contact information right off the bat.
Great.
So definitely make sure you check out Jennifer's podcast. You got your own podcast called Toe to Toe, and I'm sure it's on every podcast platform.
It is. It's really it's Toe to Toe podcast, and it's really a podcast for real estate agents to help them figure out there's a lot of ways to do their job. So it's pretty funny. I have a co-host and we battle about topics back and forth. So we really disagree and fight about it, just showing people that there's a lot of ways to be successful.
Yeah, well, that's what makes things interesting. I mean, if you
Right.
you agree with everything, I mean, it's the drama that draws people in, right?
It is. I tell her all the time because she's more like you, like laid back, relaxed, like it depends. And I'm more like one way or the other, like I'll change my mind within a minute, but like I always tell her, you cannot be Switzerland. You just have to choose a side.
Yeah, I've heard that myself.
I believe you. Mm-hmm.
Got to be a little bit more decisive.
No,
and I was looking at some of your episodes, and I think it's going to spur some of our conversation because it'll be good to chat about a few of these things as well. One of them is your last episode 56. Should you use a script?
Yeah. Guys should definitely, investors should use a script. I mean, for sure. Well, I started off as a wholesaler, and I used to wholesale short sales. So this was back before I became an agent. Because I was like, realtors, they don't really do anything. Like, they're kind of dumb. Like, why do they get paid so much? So I was like, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to wholesale properties, which is basically being a realtor.
Yeah, I can see that.
But
your eyes rolled a little bit. For those people who aren't watching the video, when you said, yeah, you guys should use a script.
Right.
I saw a bit of an eye roll there. You don't believe in scripts, I'm going to guess.
No, I think you always should use a script. So like even when we were wholesaling, so I would send out, and you guys have heard this like a million times, I would send out the yellow letters in like the red writing, and then it would be addressed like in red, and like the stamp would be a little crooked to make sure that I got the calls back. I mean, you've heard this 1,000 times, right? This strategy that has been implemented since the beginning of time. But when people would call, I would have a script and basically like a checklist of what I would ask them, because I need to know, is this worth me going out there? Are they motivated enough for me to get it at a wholesale price?
Mm-hmm.
And I do that now with my clients as a realtor. I mean, not a wholesale price, but like, are they motivated enough to sell it at a resale price? I also work with investors that will offer them like a really, an investor price too. So like, where do they stand? But in order to hear them, you have to have your script. You have to know what you're asking, and you have to understand what the outcome is that you want to be.
Yeah. I'm going to agree with you on it as well. I mean, especially when you're starting off, to just kind of get on the phone, cold call. But I do think that there's now we're in the thick of it already. When you're building your script, what do you think about how it's weighted? Especially when you're trying to build any kind of rapport. And
I think building rapport is, I don't know how to like say this nicely, but I think people tend to go there and say, I'm building rapport, but it's like kind of a cop out. Because here's the thing. People, by how you talk, maybe different words that you use, your accent, they're going to make snap judgments. Building rapport, people act like it takes a long time, but people instantly make up their mind. If you remind them of their cousin, they're going to like you. If you say something that their dad always said or their mom always said, like they're going to either like you or hate you, depending on what they thought about their dad, right? Like if you remind them of somebody, that's going to shape their opinion of you. So I think building rapport it's weighted too much in our conversation, but I don't think it means that much. Like, I think people place too much value on it, and it doesn't even exist or something. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah. See, part of my rapport building, that when I'm talking is that what I'm trying to get to is the underlying like reason they're calling me.
Sure.
Because more times than not, when they're calling me, in fact, that's sometimes part of my script. I will ask,
why?
If I can't get to the gist of it right off the bat, I usually say something like, most people, they know what I do, and then I have to buy properties at a discount, and there's usually a reason you're calling me. What is that reason? And I've been that blunt.
That's not building. I mean, that's you being just direct with the question, right? And that's what I like to do. It's just like, be direct. You called me for a reason. I'd love, what is it? They will usually tell you. And if they don't tell you, it's like, you seem a little hesitant. I'm curious, but you still pick up the phone. What's going on? Are you, and then maybe give them choices, right? Because some people need choices. Like, are you looking to sell it to an investor so that you can, like, where are you planning on moving after this? Do you need to be there by a certain time? There's a million questions you can ask them to get to the meat if they're not being direct with you. But those questions are very directed questions. Building rapport to me sounds like you're almost like you're beating around the bush. Maybe I'm interpreting it wrong. What is it like? What does it mean to you?
Well, no, I wouldn't call it beating around the bush.
Okay.
It is building at least a relationship of some time. And we've had that situation where if I go or my business partner goes to a house, we won't talk numbers. We won't even talk about buying for almost an hour into the conversation.
But do you think that they've already, but that's you just like kind of reading the room.
Yeah, but you're still building that rapport, It's that whole know, like, and trust,
Right.
And because, frankly, we've been doing this for quite a while now, and I still get people calling thinking we're a scam of some kind.
Oh, sure. Well, because there are actually a lot of people that do scam. They'll do there are a lot of scammers, like when there were a lot of people in my circles that would do contract for deed, and that's not a scam, but there were some scammers that did that. Like I'm a landlord and I rent houses, but I regularly have scammers saying that the rent that are pretending like they're renting the house. You know what I mean?
Right. No, we even had that in our world there like a year or so ago.
Yeah.
Like people trying to rent our places that didn't own them. Like it was.
Yeah. Do you know what? I was selling the house and there was another agent in my office that was leasing it, which was kind of weird because I do both. So it was like weird, but anyway, it didn't matter. So anyway, I drove past the house. It was vacant and somebody was like living there. Literally, I had been there the day before and now I'm there now. And there's like curtains up, the blinds are pulled. I was like, what the heck? And they had literally like moved into the house. And so I knocked on the door, of course. And I was like, who are you? And they're like, oh, well, we moved in the house. I'm like, what? How did you get the keys? Like, how did you see this property? And like, come to find out, it was so weird. It was like it was like a Craigslist scam. I don't even know how they got into the property. They somehow got like the lockbox number. It was crazy. I had to call the police and then they moved out. But it was nuts. They actually were living in the property in like less than 24 hours.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I haven't gotten it that far.
Well, lucky you. I'm sure you will.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Well, when he was a pastor too, I was like, oh.
Yeah, we've had people like hijack our list. If they saw something as a vacant, and we're posting on Facebook Marketplace or whatever, then they'll create a Craigslist ad with the same photos and stuff like that.
That happens every time. Like every time I list a house, like for rent or rent to own or something like that, it always gets kidnapped.
Mm-hmm.
I feel bad for the people because some people really get scammed on that. It's terrible. And you can't really prevent it, right?
No.
I always tell people if it's like too good to be true, it probably is. I don't know.
That's probably true. So we're going to change the subject a little bit because you and I, before we started hitting the record button, we talked about one of the big questions that you and I both get a lot.
Yes.
Should you become a realtor?
No. Oh. I think we'll battle about this.
Yeah, no, this is one of those things, and you said I got to pick a side, but I actually think it's a pretty, pros and cons to each, and it depends on your goals.
True.
But we kind of agree on this. I also we've just never done it because we just feel like it actually opens things up quite a bit. We work with a ton of realtors in our current situation.
Well, I think as an investor, I agree with you. It does depend on your goals. And I think that because I was an investor first before I was licensed. So I was an investor and we wholesaled short sales. And this is 2008, 9, 10. I became licensed in like June of 10. And June of 2010 was around the time that the banks, well, they never know how to do math. And that always baffles me. I'm like, how do you not? Anyway, that's a whole side tangent.
Oh, you and I could have that tangent. We recently had, man.
Yeah, it's terrible. But it's like, okay, they were deciding that even though in our contract that we sent to them and we were disclosing that we were wholesaling the property, so we were making that spread, they didn't like that. They wanted it to like go on the market and all this stuff. And I was like, you know what, maybe I should get my license. But the thing is like, it sort of shackled me. I mean, literally I got in trouble almost every day. My broker was like, you can't do that. I was like, yeah, I mean, I hear you, but like, it makes sense. What I'm doing actually like logically makes sense. And she was like, yeah, but it's a violation of your license. I was like, but that's dumb. And she's like, yeah, I know, but you still can't do it. I was like, this is so stupid. So it's like, I feel like if you are an investor, you're better off finding an agent to work with that's like an investor agent. And I think a number of your guests have previously talked about that because it's really like a very, very small percentage of agents that know how to work with investors and are investors themselves, right?
Sure.
And then everybody else, they don't know how to do it. They get frustrated. They don't want to look and put so many offers in, like all this stuff. They don't understand math either, So it's like, I don't know. I'm pretty hard no on if you're going to be an investor, you shouldn't get licensed. But I'm a pretty hard yes that if you're going to be a realtor, you should own investment property. So I don't really know what that says.
I think that's pretty good advice either way. But again, can I ask you, like, what were some of those things that like really surprised you got in trouble with that you, or do you not want to admit to it?
Oh no, I don't care. Let me think. I mean, I always get in trouble. I feel like if you don't get in trouble often, you're not like pushing the envelope. Like I just got in trouble for my social media. I was like, this is stupid. Like if somebody puts their house on the market and there's a picture on the internet, it seems like I can repost that. But I guess there's rules. Yeah, well, there's rules. I still don't know what they are. I got a call. Whatever. It's fine. What did I get in trouble for? I'm trying to remember. It was like everything I did, I would get in trouble for. Like, you're not really supposed to wholesale if you're an agent. And I don't wholesale anymore. So like now if I have a good investment, I will present it to I only work with a couple of investor clients, like ones that I know. We do a lot of deals. Like, I don't want to work with too many just because like I want to find them deals. Do you know what I mean? Or like for myself. And so like there was one that just happened where I was like, this is a really good deal. Like I would buy it for a rental, but it needed a lot of work, which I'm capable of doing, but like my guy would really like it too. So I was like, okay, well, one of my investors, I was like, well, let me present it to him and then maybe he can fix it up and then I'll just buy it from him as a rental. Like that could work. So like, I like to work with investors that are like, either compatible with what I'm doing or they're like kind of opposite of what I'm doing. You know, so it's like a good marriage, not like competing, because that's not fun. But I'm trying to think of what I got in trouble for. I honestly can't. It's always something, you know, because they have so many rules they're just stupid rules.
The rules to make rules. It almost sounds like the government.
It's the government. It's Congress. Yes. I feel like every time they make a rule, they should have to take one out, you know?
Yeah, there you go.
Well, maybe we should run for president and vice president of the world.
No comment. So,
especially now.
Yeah, especially now. So I want to insert one more time that, if you like what you're hearing, Jennifer has her own podcast. Make sure you check out Toe to Toe podcast. And I'm going to make sure that all of your links are in the show notes. But I also understand now through here that you're probably pretty active on social media. So
yeah, definitely. And everything's under my name, Jennifer Murtland. So I like to get into, stir the pot a little bit, as they say. I feel like we need to shake it up, like investors aren't bad. I remember like wholesaling people, even now they're like, oh, that's bad. You shouldn't wholesale. And I'm like, no, it's actually good. The client, they don't want to deal with it being on the market and having showings. Like they're okay with getting less money just because you're selling your house. Your goal, and we've got in a fight about this on our podcast, the goal is not always, I want the most amount of money. Sometimes it's terms. And that's what investors do. We offer terms in exchange for a reduced price. Yeah. Right?
It's just whatever they value more.
Exactly. And that's why you need a script.
Exactly.
To understand what they want so you can help them get what they want,
Yeah. Yeah. No, you mentioned a couple times you've had a lot of experience with short sales.
Oh yeah, ton. That's what we did. Wholesale short. I think they're coming back. You think we're going to get them back?
I think so too.
The forbearance rate is not low. It's not high though, which is weird, but I guess they've it's still stalled. Right?
Yeah. Before we go into this though, I think you better define what a short sale is for people.
Okay. So a short sale is not a short process. It is a long process. The short refers to
the banks have to do their math. That's what
right on their non-calculate with their fingers. So the short refers to the financial shortage that the bank is taking. So they're taking a loss, which is the short. So we would negotiate with them to purchase the house for less than what is owed on the house. Is what it is. And in that, we try to get them to release that debt. So the seller doesn't have to repay the debt or repay the tax on the debt.
Sure. So you've done quite a few of these.
Oh, tons. I mean, a lot more before.
As a wholesaler or as a realtor?
Mostly as a wholesaler, because that's how we would get our properties. So I would, in our county, well, I served 4 different counties when I was doing this in Cincinnati, Ohio, and they were published in the newspaper or online at the auditor. So we would get the notice, and then I would go knock on their door and say, hey, I noticed that you were in default. Has the bank talked to you about a short sale? And I'm nice. I mean, at the time I was like 28. So I'm this little kid, basically, knocking on doors, like nice as pie, look like a good Ohio girl, like, hey, has anybody told you about short sale? And they're like, no, honey. And I'm like, let me help you. And then I go in and just talk to them, like, here's what a short sale is. Here's what a deed in lieu of foreclosure is. Here's what they're doing, which is foreclosing on you. So let's talk about your choices. Let's talk about your life, figure out which one could be the best. I mean, sometimes the short sale is not their best option. So it's like, okay, well, maybe we should list it. Here's an agent that I work with. Because at the time I wasn't an agent. So it's like, it would be better if you listed it, based on your financials.
Sure.
But I would knock on their door, get the deal. We did a ton of them. And then a lot of them, we would make the offer. And this was back when we could buy it and sell it within the same 5 minutes without actually taking title. I don't think you can do that anymore.
I think it depends on the state.
Okay. In Ohio, it's very frowned upon, which I don't know why. They consider it, I guess, fraudulent, but it's not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of a strange process. Like we've had experience in North Dakota and Minnesota, for the most part, and it's easier in North Dakota.
That's weird. I don't know. So I was able to get a lot of properties because I would say, hey, look, we want to buy the property for this amount, which would be lower, which would be an investor offer, but it would also include a spread for a wholesaler. And I would tell them I can only buy it if I can resell it at a certain price. But then a lot of times the deal was actually like pretty good, but we negotiated with the bank. The bank would say yes. We would get the BPO agent to say what the price was in line with our offer, and we would buy them. I still own some of them today.
So and then as the wholesaler, you're the one talking to the banker at that point.
Yeah, well, I have my mom was actually my partner at the time, and so she would do the negotiating. Like I was more the sales, because that back end negotiation takes a lot. So like it's a lot of time and it's a lot more administrative work and paperwork stuff. So like I think if you're going to do short sales, you have to realize that there's kind of two parts. The first part is like getting the deal, which is more of a sales role, a people person. The second part is like the paperwork princess is what we used to call it. Like you're detail oriented, like you follow all the rules, you fill out all the forms. Like probably you can tell I'm not that person. Like I never follow the rules. The rules or the paper is not in order by page. Like it is all over the place, upside down, whatever.
No, you come across as somebody that the rules are a mere suggestion.
Correct. They are, right? That's why they keep changing them. So my mom would process them and just talk to the bank because it requires a lot of follow-up. And there are a bunch of companies out there that actually will do that if you can get the deal. So the getting the deal part is, that's the key. It's like all investment. Like you win on the front end, right? So it's like you have to be able to talk to the people to get, as long as it's the best for them, then get them to say yes and get it at a price that is also good for you and for them, that the bank will agree to, Did
you find some banks easier to deal with than others?
Back then, for sure. Like Fifth Third. Do you guys have Fifth Third?
No.
I think that's a local bank. Wells Fargo back then Bank of America was the worst, but one time they gave somebody $25,000. He had not paid his mortgage in years, and they gave him $25,000 to leave. I was like, this is amazing. You should take this.
Wow.
I know. I don't know how they would do it now because that always ebbed and flowed from year to year. Good banks, easy to work with, banks not. I think it really probably depended on their back end and what they wanted to take back control of, right? I don't know how banks work. I just know what I always used to tell people. If it seems logical, the bank will do the opposite. So as long as you know that, you'll be good.
Well, that's I don't know if I can give that advice, but that's
I'll give it. I'm never Switzerland. It's always one or the other.
So again, make sure everybody checks out your podcast, Toe to Toe Podcast for Realtors. We've covered a lot of ground here. We've been chatting for 30 minutes already.
Oh, wow. That was fast.
Was there anything else that you wanted to chat about before we signed off here? I know I'm kind of feel like I'm cutting us short here, but
No, I think like like we had mentioned, the main question that we both always get is, should I be a licensed realtor? I mean, I think I'm happy to chat with you about that, because you're right. I mean, honestly, it does depend on your goals. It depends on what you want to do. So I'm gonna agree with you and concede the win to you. But I'm happy to chat and help you through that decision and kind of give you the pros and cons of both and see if it fits into your life. And my cell phone is actually 513-400-1691. Anybody can call.
Oh boy, I can't believe you just gave your cell phone on this.
I don't care.
I really appreciate it. This has just been great to chat with you. There was a lot that we covered here. Believe it, when we got on this podcast, we were kind of wondering where this conversation was going to go, and next thing you know, we chewed up half an hour. But between the advice around being a realtor, definitely talk to you, Jennifer. I mean, that was, I think you would be a great mentor for somebody. Definitely check out the podcast, Toe to Toe Podcast. We'll make sure those links are in the show notes. You really brought a lot of value around short sale. Some of that stuff I think is really new to our show, and I think people have always been curious about how that process works. So really great. Appreciate that. Thank you so much for being on our show, and
thanks for having me on.
I hope you'll come again.
I will. Thank you. Have a good one.
Thanks.
This has been the REI Mastermind Network. You can already tell that we've made some changes, and a few more are on the way. If you are interested in what we have planned, head over to patreon.com/REI Mastermind and support the show today. Financial contributions are always appreciated, along with a like, share, and review. It really helps us grow and reach more people with this valuable information. See you next time, and tell a friend.